Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with 16 American musical masterpieces I couldn't live without. I just couldn't. I really couldn't. Boy, was this fun to do, actually, because not only are these American musical masterpieces, I mean, they're fabulous works, but almost all of them are 20th century works, or, later, or late 20th century works. I mean, they're fresh. They're new. They're not the usual stuff. And oh my gosh, what a fascinating constellation of composers. I mean, really amazing, in all kinds of styles, and gee whizzo. Let's just get started. I'm very interested to see your list too, because I know just from the comments that you have an incredible fund of knowledge about contemporary American music, whether it's really, 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 really recent or relatively really, really, really recent. I mean, it's going to be a fun pile of stuff with lots of works that not all of us know about. I mean, that's what's the joy of this, isn't it? So, Piston, Symphony No. 6. Okay, a lot of us will know that one. That was a Boston Symphony commission by Charles Munch. He recorded it. It's a knockout. There have been a couple other superb recordings since, including Leonard Slatkin's. It's a beautiful work. Just a wonderful, wonderful piece in the American neoclassical style, with a finale that, nods. There's a little nod to, the Aaron Copeland Western sound. Oh, it's so much fun. It really is. Then Philip Glass, Koyaanisqatsi. Yeah. I mean, we got to do something with the minimalists, and I wish I could do more in this list. I mean, I could do a whole 16 minimalist masterpieces, but we're not going to. That's a little too limited, I think. If you can do a C major arpeggio, then 16 minimalist masterpieces, don't you? But Koyaanisqatsi is one of the great film scores. It's one of Glass's, I think, most affecting works. It's absolutely lovely. I am not one of those people. I mean, for some reason, Glass still is very controversial. He's written marvelous, marvelous music. He's a great composer. I mean, he's written stage works. He's written, 11 or 12 symphonies now? I mean, you may not like all of them, but they're serious works, and some of them are really, really pretty powerful. His concertos, some of them are excellent. The violin concerto is a lovely work. I mean, everyone's doing the piano etudes. He's a serious voice, and Koyaanisqatsi is absolutely magnificent. It's beautiful, and incredibly, in its quiet way, a really, really powerful piece. Florence Price, Symphony No. 3. I know you're all going to say, "Well, she's black, she's a woman, and politically correct, blah 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 blah." No. That is not true. She was a seriously good composer. She had an individual voice. It's a voice you can find, I mean, even formally, structurally, her piano quintet or the symphonies where she has, finales basically in 6/8 time in minor keys and things. You may not like the style, or the way she structured things with the scherzos and finales kind of running together as a larger movement, counterbalancing first movements and slow movements. So I think she had a voice. She had a point of view. She expressed it with confidence. Are these symphonies flawless masterpieces? Who knows? And really, who cares? They are extraordinarily original and deeply felt pieces of music. And that's good enough for me. I don't care if she was green and a toad. I really don't. She was a gifted composer, and she deserves all the attention that we can give her at this point, because at least some of her music deserves to break through the glass ceiling, whatever ceiling you want to call it, and get into the general repertoire. Not because she's black and not because she's female, but because she wrote good music. Really good music. And the Third Symphony is probably her symphonic masterpiece. We're still waiting for a really, really top-notch recording of the Fourth, just to see how that shakes out. But the Third is really a terrific piece. So there's that. Henry Cowell, another guy who, he wrote tons and tons of music, and his works are still as good as unknown, except for like the Banshee and some of his early avant-garde pieces, maybe one of the hymn and fuguing tune things. But this piece, Synchrony, that Michael Tilson Thomas recorded, is just tons of fun. It's marvelous and interesting, and it sounds like nobody else. He was indefinable. He wrote music in every possible style. People say, well, it's very erratic. It's very, well, people haven't heard all of it, and we don't have an opportunity to. I mean, he wrote, what, 20-something symphonies, 17 symphonies? I don't know, some huge number. Someone needs to get his oeuvre under control and do a series of recordings devoted to his music so that we can actually hear what he was all about. I mean, he did world music. He's just incredible. But what I've heard, and just about everything I've heard, has this spark of originality in it and a vibrancy that's really very, very compelling. And Synchrony is one of those. Give it a shot. You'll be most impressed. I guarantee it. Morton Feldman. I love Morton Feldman. Morton Feldman wrote pattern pieces based on the patterns of Persian rugs. I mean, they're enormously long, most of them. Crippled Symmetry isn't that long comparatively, but they could be hours long. And they involve little tiny atonal nuggets of sound that slowly change shape through repetition. And they are hypnotic. And, it's honest music. Is it limited? Hell yeah. I mean, it's very limited in expression in what it does, because you're simply supposed, well, look at the title, Crippled Symmetry. It's symmetrical, but the symmetry isn't quite symmetrical. It has its little doodads in it. And so you listen to it and you allow yourself to come under its spell and you participate in these slowly evolving patterns. They're like sculptures or mobiles or things that slowly turn or change shape. And, time is a major element in this music, because you have to have the time and you have to be willing to invest the time. But if you do, it's unlike anything else. It's such pure music in the sense that, it is simply what it is. It does exactly what it purports to do and has no pretense to be anything else. And it's beautiful. It's quite beautiful. I mean, Crippled Symmetry has a wonderful ensemble. It's like, piano and a flute and a bell and a glockenspiel or a celesta, just these delicate sounds arranged in gradually morphing patterns. It's fascinating, and it's unlike anybody else, and it's really, really cool. So, Feldman, definitely. Morton Gould. Oh, another terribly underrated composer. Well, most of these composers are terribly underrated because Americans do nothing but crap on their own music. They have no confidence and no pride and no integrity when it comes to their own classical music heritage, and it's a disgrace. There. Now, we all know Morton Gould was a brilliant composer. His Third Symphony is one of the great American symphonies, but the Latin American Symphonette. Oh my, he could write some of the best light music, because it's really not light at all. It's really fabulously well crafted and brilliant and fun to listen to. And I think the Latin American Symphonette is just one of the great pieces of light music of all time, which makes it a masterpiece in any genre. Dmitri Mitropoulos was a big fan of Morton Gould because he was really a first-class composer. He really was. It's wonderful stuff. Bernard Herrmann, Psycho. Sure, we've got to do a film score or two, don't we? We've got a couple of them in here. Well, we had Koyaanisqatsi already. Hollywood film scoring was one of the great media pioneered by and made fabulous by an incredible coterie of gifted European emigres and native-born American composers. It's an American medium, like the American musical is. And there's so many fabulous scores. But Bernard Herrmann was, of course, the genius of the first half of the 20th century, at least, or going a little bit later, when it came to movie music. And Psycho is, it's got the most iconic sound probably in all of 20th century orchestral music. The old shower scene, everybody knows it. Everybody's heard it. And it's stunning. When you can create something that is immediately identifiable from one squeak on a violin, just wheek, then you're dealing with a genius. And so Psycho is just extraordinary. Dawson. the Negro Folk Symphony. This is another one of those pieces. Dawson only wrote this one symphony. He wrote a lot of other choral works, and he did a lot of work with spirituals and other things, that kind of music. But he only composed one symphony because, of course, being black and in the 1930s and 40s and 50s, he would have very few opportunities of getting a performance. And so it proved. Leopold Stokowski played this symphony, and so did a few other people. It was pretty popular for a while, but then it disappeared. And it's since made a bit of a comeback. It's a masterful piece of music by a truly, truly gifted musician. And it deserves to be in the repertoire as much as the New World Symphony or anything else does. And I make no apologies for selecting some of these pieces by neglected African-American composers. They may not be part of the American mainstream of classical music, but they should have been. They should have been from the beginning, and anything I can do to help them, well, I'm up for it. I really am. It's only fair, truly. So much crap got played in preference to the beautiful, beautiful works that these people were doing. I could do a whole series just on William Grant Still, which he's not on this list for a couple, basically because there's too much of his stuff, and I just couldn't figure out what to choose. But some great stuff here. Wonderful, folks. Get with it. Hovaness, Fantasy on Japanese Woodprints for xylophone and orchestra. Oh, this is so interesting. I mean, that woody sound of the prince is captured so marvelously in the orchestra. And it's a piece it's not the usual sort of sweet, modal, what some people consider kind of, anodyne Hovaness style. It's a much more interesting and musically exotic piece than those are. All 70 symphonies, or however many he wrote, 60 some odd or 80 some odd. It's a brilliant, brilliant work. And I don't know, I just love it. The first time I heard it, I was like, wow, this is really, really, really cool. Hovaness studied Japanese folk music, Korean folk music, or indigenous musics. And he was, extremely, extremely curious about everything, but particularly, music of the Far East. And this is one of his most splendid embodiments of that particular fascination. Robert Kurka, Symphony No. 2. I just love this piece. The finale is just one of the catchiest things in the world. It's an incredibly vital piece. It's really tremendously exciting. It's wonderful because it has sort of a virtuoso, almost obligato part for the timpani. The orchestration is as clean and clear, and it's really amazing. And he was really very sad. He died quite young of leukemia, so he didn't write very much. And the second symphony's been recorded a couple times, and it deserves your attention. It's in 3 movements, and it is spectacularly beautiful. And it's one of those neoclassical pieces that doesn't have an ounce of fat on it anywhere, which is more than I can say about myself. I mean, it's totally lean and mean and sinewy. It just has muscle. It's thrilling, absolutely thrilling. Then, oh yeah, George Crumb, Music for a Summer Evening. Crumb is just great. I mean, everything he wrote is terrific. He's another composer who evolved his own style, his own language and syntax. His settings of Lorca poetry, such as Ancient Voices of Children, his unbelievable, Black Angels string quartet for electric string quartet, The Night of the Electric Insects. Oh my God. It's so sonically imaginative and immediately expressive, and it just reaches out and grabs you. And Music for a Summer Evening, which I have here, also known as Makrokosmos 3, is one of those works. It's based on, loosely, the Bartók Sonata for 2 pianos and percussion, not thematically, but conceptually, because it's written for 2 pianos and just a boatload of percussion. But the pianos are amplified, which, and sometimes they're played inside and on the strings, and it's much more avant-garde, although Bartók's was in its day. This is 20th century, late 20th century avant-garde stuff. And it's such a moving and haunting piece of music. Oh, it's just a a screaming masterpiece. I've seen it live a few times. I have the score, which is this big thing with, calligraphic musical notation. And gosh, it's a world. It's a whole world. And, Crumb, who passed away a couple of years ago, was a genius and just the nicest guy you ever meet in your whole life. What a terrific person. So, music for a summer evening. Major, major stuff. Duke Ellington, The River, this suite from the river. I love the suite from the river. It's a ballet. And it's a ballet suite. And it's just, it's full of, well, it sounds like Duke Ellington. It's jazzy and swingy and sassy. And, it's been arranged. It was originally played, by his own band. And it was later, arranged for symphony orchestra. It was orchestrated, for regular ensemble. Like a lot of his pieces. It was another just genius composer. I mean, he said himself, there's only good music and bad music. And because his music is jazz in style and not mostly written for a normal symphonic ensemble, it doesn't get, as much attention as it deserves to. But oh my, it deserves to. And I love his stuff. I just love it. I really do. Gershwin, An American in Paris. The Great American Tone Poem. Well, or something like that. It's funny. Everything Gershwin wrote just about is fabulous. I mean, you've got Rhapsody in Blue, you've got the Concerto, An American in Paris, and Porgy and Bess, and, a couple other things, smaller things. But he was an extraordinary composer. Of course, the songs, millions of songs, and there's musicals and things. But An American in Paris is so much fun. I played it myself. I remember vividly getting, they wanted some crazy amount of money when we did it with my community orchestra to rent the cow horn. The taxi horns. There are 4 of them, A, B, C, and D, or something like that. And they all are pitched a little bit differently. And it was very expensive to do it. And, I played this piece with the Manhattan Chamber Orchestra, and I played it with New York Symphonic Arts and a couple other groups. And, they needed me because I had the taxi horns. I didn't buy them, and we didn't rent them for hundreds of dollars. There was a fabulous junk store, a brass and metal junk store on Lower Broadway, around Broadway and Spring Street, somewhere around there. It's not there anymore, of course. The rents have gone crazy, and they put, high-end boutiques and things where you can buy, lingerie and whatnot. But back in the day, there were still some of these just enormous, lower floor industrial-like spaces. And they had brass fittings, brass and metal garbage. And I managed to get bells to do the Symphony Fantastique there. I had them cut the piping, and I just whacked things with hammers till I got the pitches I wanted. They worked quite well. And they had taxi horns, piles and piles and piles of taxi horns. I don't know where they got them from, with squeeze bulbs, real ones. And so I just, got my score, and I started honking away at these things until I found 4 taxi horns, one of which was really cool. It was a dragon head, and when you squeezed it, its tongue wiggled up and down like that. But, it didn't clack. It just made the taxi horn sound. And I got the right pitches, and the whole thing cost me $5 for all 4 of them, instead of $275 to rent them for a few days. And we went and we did An American in Paris. Oh, those were the days, my friends. We thought they'd never end. No, really, it was fun. It was so much fun. Just, hanging out and playing in community orchestras and, percussing away and finding things to hit. Wow, what fun. Copeland, Symphony No. 3. Is it the Great American Symphony? Or is that really Harris's third? I don't know. Copeland's third is a wonderful piece. And it's got the fanfare for the common man in the middle of it. And it's got that fabulous tune in the scherzo. Dun, 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 ba, 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 da, 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 ya, da, 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 da. Oh, God, it's fun. It's just one of the things I will say about all of this American music, all of it. Some of it is profound. Some of it is tragic. Some of it has hidden depths all over the place. But, at the end of the day, all of it's just a heck of a lot of fun. It really is. There's a joy and vitality and vibrancy to all of this music that is really, really extraordinary. I wouldn't call it specifically American. There's plenty of American music that's dreary and miserable and dopey. I mean, so I'm not going that far. But I think it's true of this selection. So, you know. Lou Harrison's Piano Concerto that he wrote for Keith Jarrett. It's a wonderful work. It doesn't get played as often as it should, probably because it's involved in different tuning systems for the piano and bits of the orchestra. None of that makes any difference. It sounds just fine. It really does. And it's a big work. I mean, it's a big 30-plus minute major statement by one of the great East-West fusion composers of the latter half of the 20th century. It's just fabulous. And it just should get played lots, and doesn't, but it's been recorded a couple times, and thank God we have it. And last but not least, Ives, Symphony No. 4. Ives, because of course, he went to my high school, and he lived in Danbury, where my dad was from, and he was selling, he was living in Danbury and buying auto parts for my grandfather. At least that's what we think. And so there's a family connection there, sort of, kind of, a little bit. But even beyond that, Ives Fourth is really, in a way, a microcosm for what American music later became. That is, free. It pays homage to the standard European influences. It is called a symphony. It does have a fugue in its third movement. It has a relationship to the great tradition of classical music, but it's not bound by it. And I think, the best American music operates that way. The relationship is evident, but it's not a straitjacket. The composers are free to discover and do new things. And that's what I hear in a lot of this music. It really is. I am very curious to see what your own lists look like and what you managed to come up with. But this is mine, and I hope there are some pieces here that give you some food for thought and an opportunity to discover some fantastically original musical voices. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.